So the importance of the United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent is really that it provides a platform for Black people to come together. It's a gathering of Black people. And we always say that it should be the biggest gathering of people of African descent anywhere. We have many UN mechanisms looking at racial discrimination. We have the oldest UN treaty body, CERD. We have the Special Rapporteur on Racism, we have the working group, so many of them are looking specifically at issues around racism and intolerances, right? But what we're looking at, they don't necessarily look at it in the same way that we're looking at it. It's not a platform for Black people to come and speak. CERD is for members for states that have signed on to the convention and agreed to be held bound by that treaty. And the Special Rapporteur is looking at specific focus, right? But the platform that we provide is one that allows Black people from everywhere in the world to come together and to share and to speak and to share not only their concerns, but to share the culture, to speak about what they're doing, and build that brotherhood. My colleague Justin always speaks about it as a movement, the beginning of a movement that will take us, take this whole issue of equality of people of African descent to the next level. I think this is the first platform like it since the first gathering, the first meeting that we had like this since the Durban conference, and where we had the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. So the first meeting of the forum was in December 2022, and that was huge. It was really great. We had several hundred people there. Then we went to New York earlier this year in 23, and we had well over 1,000 people registered, and NGOs and groups from all over the world coming in and wanting to take the floor and wanting to engage and actually building networks. That I think is so important for us to do. So we're hoping that we will always have the forum as a space for civil society. We of course encourage and invite member states to come in, but for civil society primarily, we do nothing without consulting civil society. We always ask their views, what should be on our agenda, what do you want us to speak about? Because we are there to help them push those issues forward that they want to push forward, and to highlight what they see as priorities, in which communities they see as priorities, which geographical regions they think we should be focusing on, and we're looking at those people who are most likely to be invisible, those people that are off the grid. So we have discussed consistently around issues of minority groups, and so migrants and women and LGBTQI and others. Coming up, we may be looking further at thematic issues that may bring in other groups. But one thing that we have consistently looked at the forum is this issue of reparatory justice, because we feel that this conversation is ripe, it's ready to be had, the climate is right, and we can provide the genesis, the focus, the oil for that wheel to really begin to turn. And since we've started talking about it in 2022, there's so many people speaking about it, and so somebody asked the other day, has there really been progress? And I would say yes, because 10 years ago we were not speaking about reparations, that's for sure. And now people are speaking about it, governments are speaking about it. I even heard the Secretary General speak about repair, right? In the broader context of, making, and he refers to a direct line between slavery, colonialism, and what we see today as underdevelopment. So we need to be looking at issues of not only reparatory justice, but for a person like me coming from the Bahamas, coming from the Caribbean, where climate and natural disasters is concerned, climate justice, environmental racism is something that we want to continue to keep on the table. And finally for us, it's around economic justice. So having those three areas to sort of making the linkages between those three areas. And when we talk about economic justice, we talk about development. And we really can't think about development without thinking about reparations for those people who have really suffered over the years and who are still trying to pull themselves up by their bootstrap. So that is really, I think, what the forum offers in addition to what exists now. That place for us to speak about those issues, just to make those connections and see how, where those synergies are in terms of identifying the priority areas for people of African descent. And it's been, I think, really great to be here over the past few days looking at this issue of atrocities, atrocity crimes, and what we ought to be thinking about in terms of linking the legacy issues with the current realities of people of African descent, but not only people of African descent, of course, indigenous people, people of color, who are also challenged around the world. And so it gives us an opportunity to come together as the UN, and I was last week at the Business and Human Rights Forum in Geneva, but to bring some of those principles, how do businesses think about these issues of racism and how do they address it, and then NGOs, how do we come together from different parts of the globe. The past few days that we've been here in Brazil has been awesome. The discussion is open and people are so direct about these issues, and the passion is just at another level. I think it's fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity to have been here and to engage on these issues, and I hope the conversation continues. You know, we know that we cannot do this ourselves as a forum. We know that we cannot do it even with the other UN mechanisms whom we work with very closely. We have to engage with other entities that are doing this work, that are developing tools and see how we can pull those into what it is we're doing and share those in different areas where we are. So I think this is an excellent opportunity. And you know, finally for me, one of the things with the forum is that we only meet once a year. And for me, that's not enough. There's so much work to be done. There's so many people that want to, you know, speak to us. We have to find ways to engage at different levels. So we're looking at how we can do that at the community levels, how we can look at different regions of the world, and take our message to another level. So it doesn't stay only at the high levels of the UN. Those walls are pretty high for some people to get, and those gates are pretty wide, ought to be wider, but it's difficult for some people to walk through, right? So we want to see how we can come to their communities, how we can hear them in their spaces, to see what their realities are. And I think that will help us also in understanding what it is we need to do. The work won't stop with us when our term ends in 2025, but we hope that we would have started a momentum, a movement, as Justin says, that takes us well into the future, that brings Black people, people of African descent, minorities and others, indigenous, into the conversation so that we have a better chance at equality and human rights, and a better chance at ensuring that everyone is included in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And as we say back in the Bahamas, when the tide rises, all the boats in the harbor, whether they're a little dinghy or yacht or a big ship, all those boats got to rise, so it doesn't matter the size of the country, the size of the population of Black people. What matters is that we're all rising and we're all benefiting from opportunities that are out there, from resources that are out there. We're not unduly punished because of who we are, where we live, the color of our skin, and systems that perhaps need to be changed by now, right? Because they were set up many, many years ago and they still today govern us. Particularly, I'm thinking economic and financial processes that need to be reassessed. So that's where we are. How can we look at these? How do we come together? And every opportunity we have, the permanent forum is, our members are out there and we're trying to engage, we're trying to understand. We don't have all the answers. And in partnering with you will always be the way that we go. So thank you again for the opportunity.